Thanks, friends, for the 4,000 likes and 500 comments on the previous video, and thanks for supporting the channel financially. And I hope this video reaches the same numbers, and don't forget to support the channel financially if you are able. Then, as if on cue, a message appeared before everyone. Protect the human guild. Safely escort the human merchants to their destination. Upon successful escort, all participants will receive experience rewards. The person who contributes most to defeating the traitor will receive a sub-quest reward. If the traitor group is completely eliminated, all participants will receive an additional reward. Current participant status. Participants, 1,202. Traitors, 1. Hearing the player count, players began to grumble. And one player said, "Only one traitor? I thought there were several." Another said, "How are we supposed to find one among 1,202? In fact, the mission felt like finding a needle in a haystack, and players lost their motivation. But someone said, "Still, we better start looking by attacking each other, right?" As usual, the players started attacking each other to weed out the traitor. However, none dared to approach the Black Scythe, except for the bodyguard who had some connection. And he said, "Black Scythe Nim, my apologies in advance." Ryu inquired, "Are you going to stab me?" He said, "If you're not the traitor, you won't get hurt, right? Unless..." The bodyguard was quick to notice that Black Scythe is traitor. In fact, Ryu had intentionally made it obvious. Then the bodyguard said to himself, "Seems like we'll have to forget about the sub-quest. Given the difficulty of this guild, that'll be the better choice." And realizing he was dealing with Black Scythe, the bodyguard quickly gave up. Ryu smiled and said to himself, "He's not betraying like in the illusion." In fact, the bodyguard, not being foolish, couldn't publicly claim that Black Scythe was the traitor, and with the gratitude he owed, he couldn't do it. Also, making the top ranker an enemy would do him no good. Then he said to Ryu, "I'll keep your secret. Rest assured." Ryu played dumb and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." But the bodyguard just smiled, indicating he knew everything. Then the carriage carrying the Archbishop began to approach. One player said, "Is that the carriage we need to escort?" Another said, "Wow, look at that carriage. There must be someone important inside." The carriage was too luxurious for a regular convoy, especially the one presumed to carry the Archbishop, standing out significantly. And monsters wouldn't specifically target a carriage based on its design, but such conspicuousness made it an easy target. And Ryu said to himself, "Good for the traitor group, which is me." Then the convoy stopped, and a man who seemed to be in charge of the human guild cleared his throat and approached, and said, "Hello, warriors of the other world. I am Carlos, the captain of the Hormuz Merchant Alliance's escort." He greeted formally, looking strong as befits the captain of the escort. And he added, "We are transporting goods at the request of the Holy Empire, and are also in charge of escorting Archbishop Laver. However, the journey from the Lavteran Mountains to the Kingdom of Brahm is perilous, so we had no choice but to seek help from the temple," the captain explained at length. But the players were not interested. They only needed to know who to escort and protect. And one player said, "The Archbishop? So someone high-ranking was inside?" Then the captain said, "Before we depart, the Archbishop has a few words." The most lavish and luxurious carriage door opened, and a white-haired old man with a solemn expression spoke. "Warriors of the other world, thank you for undertaking this escort. The journey to our destination may be perilous, but do not worry. I wish light upon your path and will bestow a blessing upon you." No player asked what the blessing was, but suddenly a message appeared. Archbishop Laver grants the blessing, Holy Shield. A shield that blocks one basic attack from an enemy is created. Archbishop Laver grants the blessing, Divine Touch. All stats increase by 5. With the buffs applied, the players' faces lit up, and one player said, "Wow, even NPCs give buffs? Did you get the buff too?" "I got it." Another said, "Did everyone here get it?" "That Archbishop guy. Quite useful, huh?" The players were ecstatic at receiving buffs for the first time, but it wasn't necessarily a good thing. And Ryu said, the presence of the Archbishop's buffs meant that challenging monsters were expected to appear. Trolls, gargoyles, those aren't the real danger. The real danger is the boss-level monsters. Then Ryu added, exactly at wave 25, a boss monster will appear, and by then, the players would be exhausted, making it difficult to defeat the boss. So, what if I step in with overwhelming power at that time? If that happens, Ryu would catch the Archbishop's eye, and given his emphasis on ability, he could gain favor. And favor leads to items, specifically, the opportunity to obtain the Rune of the Future. Then Ryu said, after obtaining that, I'll have to kill the Archbishop and the other merchants. In fact, killing the non-players to prevent the traitors from reaching their destination is necessary. That way, Ryu, being considered a member of the traitor group, can survive. Conversely, the escort group of 1,201 would fail their quest, but they won't be annihilated, as there's a way for neither the 1,201 nor Ryu to be annihilated. And Ryu added, the regular group's quest was to escort the guild to their destination, and the traitor group's quest was to hinder the guild from reaching their destination. And since the two quests were completely opposite, only one group could survive. It's a scenario where 1,201 people die, or I die. That's what one would normally think. However, Ryu knew a way for both groups to survive, a method where everyone succeeds in their quests without anyone being annihilated. It's not a difficult one, too. It's simple if you exploit a loophole in the system. That's why Ryu wasn't particularly worried, as he had already succeeded using the same method several times before. Then Ryu said, I can't just live while letting 1,201 people die. Also, among those 1,201, there was Jo Yong-ho above all, and Sang Cheol could die for all he cared, but Jo Yong-ho had to survive as the future mercenary king. And Ryu added, such a talent would be a waste to kill, but I don't have to worry about the annihilation part. The problem is whether I will be able to obtain the Rune of the Future. And if everything goes according to plan, obtaining the Rune is inevitable. But there's always a variable, because there's a chance that the Archbishop won't acknowledge Ryu. And if Ryu can't create an overwhelmingly impressive situation that makes the Archbishop's eyes pop out, he won't be able to gain his favor. And without his favor, a private audience becomes impossible, and then the reward would slip away. Then Ryu said, guess I'll have to wait until the boss appears. Soon after, the convoy moved, and the official escort quest began, and 1,202 players walked, guarding the carriage. Ryu positioned himself next to the carriage the Archbishop was in, and said to himself, it's better to stand out now if possible, and wouldn't fighting next to the Archbishop make him more recognizable? While walking with that thought, monsters appeared, and numerous gargoyles filled the sky. Then one player shouted, ah, flying monsters? Damn it! How do we catch those? Another said, kill them when they come down. Though they looked more like demons than birds, the players couldn't regain their composure, and the hit-and-run attacks of the gargoyles were enough to make their heads spin. Then one player said, these bastards are tougher than I thought, and they don't die with one hit. Another said, we can't chase after them since they have wings. This is driving me crazy. The battle dragged on longer than expected on one side, and at that moment, darkness engulfed everything. Of course, that was Ryu's skill. Death Knight. Then Ryu, who darkened the space, moved faster, dropping gargoyle heads here and there, and if he spotted one trying to escape, he didn't hesitate to use his skill, Moonlight Slash. With a flashing light, 3 gargoyles were sliced to pieces. The overwhelming display belied any notion of a stat debuff. It was a one-man show by Black Scythe, leaving the players astounded, and one player said, wow, look at Black Scythe. Crazy, so damn strong. Another said, is it always a one-hit kill whenever he moves that scythe? Even amidst this, some were losing their minds watching. Not only the players, but the Archbishop was also watching Ryu Min's performance. Glancing over, the Archbishop was seen looking out the carriage window at him. Although Ryu couldn't read the thoughts, the fact that he couldn't take his eyes off indicated interest. And Ryu said to himself, I must have made a strong first impression. After slaughtering all the gargoyles, a short break followed, and then the second wave started. And one player inquired, what are these things? They look like trolls from a fantasy world? Ryu, wielding his scythe, said to himself, right, those are trolls. In fact, trolls, standing at 2.5 meters tall, were not particularly large for monsters, but were known for their rapid regeneration. However, they can only regenerate when it's a light wound. Of course, for other players, the troll's skin was too thick to be cut in one hit. But to Ryu, they're not much different from a soft tofu. As Ryu Min chopped up even the trolls, the players were utterly dumbfounded. And one player said, "Crazy, just crazy. How can his damage be so high?" Another said, "No wonder he's ranked #1. After managing to kill the trolls and walking a few steps, minotaurs appeared next. One player shouted, "Minotaurs, really? Is this for real? How are we supposed to kill these monsters?" Another said, "There's no break at all." Having experienced how strong the minotaurs were in the 6th round, the players were scared even before the fight started. Shaking his head at their behavior, Ryu said, "There's no need to be scared. Shouldn't they rather be glad? At least it's a monster they've faced before. Moreover, the difference in levels between then and now is more than 10. It would be tough, but if a few of them worked together, they could manage it." It didn't take long for the players to realize this fact, and one said, "Nice! Got it! It's easier than before?" With regained confidence, Ryu also sliced through the monsters. Despite killing dozens, no items dropped. In fact, in the 6th round, being a boss meant a high drop rate. But here they were just regular mobs, and after a grueling hunt, 4 hours passed and the 25th wave approached. Then Ryu said to himself, "It's finally time for it to appear." Ryu was mentally prepared when the awaited boss monster appeared.